before you spend another dollar on a streaming device. Listen to this all the way through, because Apple has been suspiciously quiet about the next Apple TV 4K. No big event, no flashy trailer, no one more thing. But behind the scenes, there are leaks, patterns, and some very smart guesses about what Apple is really planning for 2025 and 2026. And if you're about to buy the current Apple TV 4K from 2022, you might be making either a very smart move or a very bad one, depending on what happens next. By the end of this video, you'll know what's actually known and what's just a rumor, when a new Apple TV is realistically most likely to drop, what kind of features and price we can expect, and whether you should buy now or wait. So stay with me, because the most important part is the buy or wait decision at the end. Let's start with one simple fact. Right now, the newest Apple TV you can buy is still the Apple TV 4K from 2022. There is no official 2024, 2025, or 2026 Apple TV model yet. Apple hasn't announced anything. No press release, no event segment, nothing. So where are all these Apple TV 4K 2025 and 2026 headlines coming from? They're built on three things: Apple's upgrade history, leaks from people who are usually right about Apple, and Apple's bigger strategy to lock people into its ecosystem. Put those together, and a pretty clear picture starts to form. Let's talk timing first, because this is what most people care about. When is the next Apple TV actually coming? Look at Apple's pattern. The Apple TV 4K first came out in 2017. They updated it again in 2021. Then, surprisingly, they refreshed it just 1 year later in 2022, making it cheaper and more powerful. Since then, silence. Originally, a lot of insiders expected another refresh in 2024. That didn't happen. So, now the realistic window most people are looking at is this. Apple could quietly drop a new Apple TV either in a later year update, possibly alongside other small hardware releases, or sometime in 2025, especially around the fall, Apple's favorite season for product launches. If it slips past that, 2026 becomes more and more likely. But here's the tricky part. The Apple TV isn't important enough to Apple to get its own big event. They can and do launch it with a simple press release on their website. No warning, no hype, it just appears. So, if you're waiting for a big Apple event just for Apple TV, that's not how this product usually works. Now, what will this next Apple TV actually be like? This is where it gets interesting. The safest and most likely upgrade is the chip inside. The 2022 Apple TV 4K uses the A15 Bionic, the same family of chip that powered the iPhone 13 and 14. It's already very fast for streaming apps and casual gaming, but Apple loves to move their devices to newer chips as those become cheaper to make. So, a 2025 or 2026 Apple TV 4K would almost certainly jump to something like the A16 or newer. What does that mean for you? Faster app launches, smoother navigation even as tvOS gets heavier over the years, more headroom for Apple Arcade and higher quality games, and longer software support so it doesn't feel slow or outdated in a few years. If you care about gaming on your TV, that chip bump alone could be a big deal. Now, let's talk about something people actually complain about: the Siri remote. Here's the truth. The current remote from 2022 is way better than the old glass one, but it still has one problem that drives people crazy. You lose it constantly. One of the most common and believable rumors is a new Siri remote with Find My built-in, so you can ping it from your iPhone and make it ring or flash when it disappears into the couch. Apple already does this with AirPods and AirTags. It's totally natural they bring that to the remote. So, for the next Apple TV, don't be surprised if the remote gets Find My support, maybe a slightly tweaked design, and the same USB-C charging that the current one already has. That alone would be enough to make a lot of people upgrade, honestly. Now, here's where the rumors get a lot more aggressive and a lot more exciting. Apple has been looking at the low end of the streaming market for years. Think about what you can buy in the US right now. A Roku or Amazon Fire TV stick for $30 to $50, a Chromecast for under $50, and then Apple comes in starting at around $129. From Apple's perspective, that's a problem. If they want more people on Apple TV Plus, Apple Arcade, Apple Music in the living room, and buying or renting movies from iTunes, they need a cheaper gateway device. That's why we keep hearing that Apple is exploring a lower-cost Apple TV. There are two main possibilities people talk about. Number one, a cheaper box. Still an Apple TV, but priced closer to $99 in the US. Lower specs, maybe less storage, but the full tvOS experience. Number two, a streaming stick or dongle. Something you plug into an HDMI port like a Fire Stick at a really aggressive price designed just to get you into Apple services. Now, to be clear, there have been no leaked photos or parts that prove a stick exists, but Apple is absolutely thinking about this market. Whether they pull the trigger in 2025 or 2026 is the real question. Either way, it makes sense that the next generation of Apple TV hardware includes a premium box like we have now, and maybe a cheaper entry-level device. Then there's the wild card, the all-in-one living room hub. For years now, there have been reports that Apple has been prototyping a device that combines an Apple TV box, a HomePod-style speaker, and a camera for FaceTime. Imagine something that sits under your TV. It's your streaming box. It's your sound system. And when you get a FaceTime call, it turns your TV into a giant video chat screen. Is that coming in 2025 or 2026? No one knows for sure. It's clearly more experimental. But if Apple wants a true center of the living room device, that's the direction they're heading in. Now, what about price? This is pretty simple to understand. In the US, the 2022 Apple TV 4K launched at $129 for the 64 gigabytes Wi-Fi model and $149 for the 128 gigabytes model with Ethernet and Thread for smart home. That was already cheaper than the 2021 version, which sold for more. So, Apple did two things. They made it faster and they made it cheaper. For the next Apple TV, there are three realistic price moves Apple could make. They keep the same $129 to $149 range and just give you a better chip and a better remote. They introduce a cheaper model around $99 to reach more people and keep a more expensive Pro model above it. Or they quietly keep the 2022 model as the budget option and place the new one at a slightly higher price. Which one will they choose? If Apple is serious about services revenue, don't be surprised if you see something around $99 at some point. It makes too much sense for them long term. Now, let's step back and look at what you can actually buy today. The 2022 Apple TV 4K. Is that thing still worth it? Or should you wait and suffer with your old streamer for another year or two? Here's what the 2022 model gives you right now. It supports full 4K with HDR, Dolby Vision, and Dolby Atmos. So, if you have a good 4K TV and sound system, it can absolutely push high-end picture and sound. It's powered by the A17 chip, which is honestly overkill for streaming. That means the interface feels smooth, apps open quickly, and Apple Arcade games run way better than on cheap sticks from other brands. It runs tvOS with access to pretty much every major app: Netflix, Disney+, Hulu, Max, Prime Video, YouTube, and of course, Apple TV+. If you already use Apple devices, the integration is where it really stands out. You can use your iPhone as a remote. You can type with your iPhone instead of that awful on-screen keyboard. You can use AirPlay to throw content from your phone or Mac onto the TV, and it can act as a smart home hub for HomeKit and Matter devices, especially if you get the Ethernet model with Thread. On top of that, the remote you get in 2022 is solid. Aluminum body, click pad with touch, dedicated power and mute buttons for your TV, and USB-C charging, so you're not hunting for a lightning cable. So, here's the key question. Should you buy the 2022 Apple TV 4K now or wait for that rumored 2025 to 2026 upgrade? Let's break this down very simply. You should buy now if you just want the best, smoothest streaming box in your living room today. You're already in the Apple ecosystem with an iPhone, maybe a Mac or iPad, maybe HomePods or HomeKit devices. You care about long-term support, and you want a box that will last you 5+ years without feeling like junk. The 2022 Apple TV 4K is powerful enough that Apple will likely support it with software updates for a long time. This is not a device that's going to be too slow in a year or two. On the other hand, you should seriously consider waiting if you constantly lose your remote and really want TH. At Find My Feature, you're on a tight budget and want to see if Apple finally drops a cheaper stick or $99 box. Or you're the kind of person who only upgrades when a product is truly next generation, and you hate the idea of buying something right before it gets replaced. Here's a simple way to think about it. If your current setup is unbearable, your TV's built-in apps are trash, your old Roku is slow, or your box doesn't even do 4K properly, then upgrading to the 2022 Apple TV 4K now is not a bad move at all. You'll feel the difference immediately, and you won't regret having something that just works. But if your current device is good enough and you're more curious than desperate, waiting could pay off. Because when Apple finally reveals the next Apple TV, whether that's in late 2025 or sliding into 2026, you're very likely going to see at least a faster chip, a more useful remote, and possibly a cheaper way to get into the Apple TV ecosystem. The one thing you should not expect is a massive, mind-blowing revolution. The Apple TV is already very good. The next one will probably be an evolution, not a complete reinvention. Unless Apple surprises everyone with that all-in-one speaker, camera, TV hub. So, here's my challenge to you. Ask yourself 2 questions. Do you actually need a better streaming experience right now? And how much would you really use those possible future features like Find My for the remote, or a slightly faster chip, or a cheaper model? If your answer is, I'm struggling right now, buy the 2022 box and enjoy it. If your answer is, my setup is okay, I just like the latest stuff, then wait and see what Apple does over the next year or so. Now I want to hear from you. If Apple released 2 products, 1, a $99 Apple TV stick, and 2, a premium Apple TV box with a crazy powerful chip and a Find My remote, which one would you buy? Let me know in the comments, because your answer says a lot about where Apple should go next. If you found this breakdown helpful and you want more no-nonsense updates on Apple leaks, rumors, and buying advice, make sure you subscribe and stick around. There's a lot more coming. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you in the next one. Honestly, the Apple TV 4K 2022 is the sleeper hit of Apple's lineup. It's the one product that doesn't get enough credit for how good it actually is. The wait for the 2025 model is largely driven by the hope for a better remote with Find My and a lower price. If Apple nails a sub-$100 price point, they will absolutely crush the competition because tvOS is miles ahead of the laggy, ad-filled interfaces on cheap sticks. However, if you have the 2022 model, unless you lose your remote daily, the upgrade is likely negligible. The smart money is on buying the current one if you need it, because it's already overpowered for streaming.